Okay,
There's been an on-screen notification that we're live on YouTube, so hi there. Winnie, are we recording now and ready to start? Well, good afternoon then, and welcome to the, let's see, it's Thursday, Blur's Day. With COVID, it's hard to know where we are. I believe it is February 11th, 2021. That's the date I'll be writing on checks today, I think. And this is your meeting of the Westside City's Council of Governments for this date. We're being held online, and that's due to COVID, and that also means that our input, public input, will be available online as it is in advance in writing. The way we start our meetings, rather than just a regular roll call, is to go around and all identify ourselves, indicating if we're also the voting delegate for our jurisdiction. So I will start. I'm Kevin McKeown. I'm the chair of the COG. I'm a council member from Santa Monica, and I am our city's voting delegate to the COG.
Hi, I'm Gleam Davis. I am a Santa Monica City Council member, and I am Kevin's alternate.
I'm Bob Wunderlich. I'm a vice mayor of Beverly Hills, and I'm a voting delegate today.
I'm Lauren Meister, City of West Hollywood, voting delegate, Mayor Pro Tem.
Hi, Alex Fish, Mayor of Culver City, and voting member today.
I'm Göran Eriksson, council member Culver City, and I'm Alex alternate.
Julian Gold, City of Beverly Hills. I'm here just as an observer today, as council member.
Now, there are lots of other people who are here as well, including our COG staff, so let's give everybody a chance to introduce themselves.
Oh wait, we also have another voting delegate, Fernando.
Hi, Fernando Morales, delegate on behalf of Supervisor Keelan, the 3rd District of the Board of Supervisors.
And we'll do roll call of the COG staff.
Go ahead, Winnie.
This is Winnie with the Westside City's COG.
Cecilia Estolano, Executive Director, Westside City's COG.
And Riley McBrien, Westside City's COG.
Hi, Lauren Langer, Council for the COG.
Then I know we also have various city staff and members of the public, so let's open it up to everybody. Just say hi.
Hernan Molina, City of West Hollywood.
Hi, this is Diana Cheng with Culver City.
And Dio with the City of Beverly Hills.
Sorry, Shelly Diner Harris, City of LA. Oh, sorry, Shelly. Go ahead.
Oh, Shelley Wolfberg, City of Culver City. Sorry about that.
Debbie Diner Harris, Council District 5, City of Los Angeles.
Dave Greenstein, Council District 5, City of LA.
Jeff Kiernan with the League of California Cities.
Hi, Stephanie Venegas with the City of Santa Monica.
Francie Steffen, City of Santa Monica.
City of Beverly Hills.
Ariane Garcia, Council District 11.
David Fenn, City of West Hollywood.
Ashley Hefner Huang, City of Culver City.
Well, I'm going to say thank you all for being here. I see 30 squares on my screen. Has everybody now introduced themselves? I'll pause for a moment here.
Yeah, one more. Patrick Chandler, LA Metro Community Relations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's hard to tell because the squares keep moving around, so I can't keep track of everybody. So that takes care of the call to order and the introduction and designation of the voting delegates. So we now know who we are and why we're here. Let's move on to our action items. That's item 3 on the agenda that you've got in front of you. There's only one action item, and that is action 3A, the approval of the December 17th draft meeting notes. So the first thing I'll ask is if anybody has any amendments to those notes. Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to adopt those minutes.
So moved. Fish.
Second, Meister.
Moved by Fish, seconded by Meister. That would be Culver City and West Hollywood, respectively. Any discussion? Seeing none, as with everything we do during online meetings during COVID, it has to be a roll call vote. So I'll ask Winnie to call the roll.
Okay, City of Beverly Hills,
Yes.
City of Culver City,
Yes.
City of Santa Monica,
Yes.
City of Culver City. Sorry, West Hollywood,
Yes.
and County of Los Angeles.
Yes.
So those are adopted unanimously, the minutes from December. That's good. That moves us on to item 4 on our agenda, and that's the executive director's report.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, we have a few items. First of all, we want to talk about our updated membership of our roster. We have a new delegate member from City of Culver City, Mayor Alex Fish. Welcome, Mayor Alex Fish. And we have our alternate member, Councilmember Göran Eriksson. In the City of West Hollywood, our delegate member is Mayor Pro Tem Lauren Meister, and the alternate member is Mayor Lindsay Horvath. So just a couple of changes in the lineup from our last meeting.
Actually, I think the alternate is Seppi Shine.
Oh, goodness. Sorry. Thank you.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah,
Seppi Shine.
it's actually properly noted on the website, but somehow it's noted differently by what you just said.
Okay, thanks, Hernan. We will update that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, we have a change in the Santa Monica Bay Restoration Commission alternate. Our prior alternate to the commission was Councilmember Megan Sally Wells, who cycled off of her council. The commission allows representatives, our representative, to nominate his alternate, and our representative is Councilmember McCune, who has nominated Mayor Alex Fish as his alternate. So just want to make that clear.
And I want to thank Mayor Fish for taking on the role formerly filled by Mayor Sally Wells.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, next is, it seems like at every meeting we're doing a call for nominations from the Metro Service Council. It only seems that way, but it almost seems like it ever is. Okay, so we have another call for nominations. In this case, our current representative, we have two, but one of them is Martha Eros from the City of Beverly Hills, and her existing term is set to expire this June. Metro has requested that we submit another letter nominating the incumbent or a replacement nominee for the next 3-year term. Martha has expressed her interest to continue serving. I think her letter's in the packet, but we may also accept other nominations for consideration and then approve the nomination. We'll, if we have other candidates, we'll bring them forward, but we would be asking you to approve the nomination in April. We ask that any interested candidates send their letter of interest to Winnie by March 31st, and then we can include it in our April meeting.
Cecilia, her letter is not in the packet. We need to work with her to team that.
Okay. And then lastly is the 2021 SCAG Sustainability Awards. The call for nominations are out and the deadline is February 26th to submit a nomination. We encourage all of our member cities to please apply, submit your nomination for the Sustainability Awards. And any questions? We can go into the topic area reports. No questions? Okay.
I see none, so let's move on to item 5.
Okay. For the transportation updates, I actually want to turn it over to my colleague, Riley O'Brien, who has been staffing and the transportation working group and monitoring transportation issues, large and small. Take it away, Riley.
Yes, thank you, Cecilia. So we have a few important updates on the transportation side. So the first is the Measure M multi-year sub-regional program, or MSP. The list of projects was formally approved by Metro during their January board meeting. So everything went as expected. The full list of projects was approved, and we will now proceed with the funding agreement to actually program those funds and get those dollars flowing into our subregion. The second update is also related to Metro. It pertains to the Metro Highway Program updated guidelines. So during the December meeting of the Metro Policy Advisory Council, in which our Executive Director, Cecilia, has participated in. So the December meeting, Cecilia actually was one of the members who voted in support of the proposed updates to the Metro Highway program. And these are updates that are very consistent with the stated priorities and express policies of the West Side Cities COG. Basically allowing more flexibility for bike and pedestrian and transit projects. So in our agenda packet, we have a finalized support letter that reflects the views of the majority of the Policy Advisory Council in support of these updated guidelines. Third, the Metro Active Transportation Program award list was approved during the January board meeting. So that includes $63 million in active transportation funding, and there's a significant chunk of it going to the West Side cities for first and last mile projects in at the Culver City E-Line station, in Santa Monica near, I believe, the 26th Street Bergamont station, and in West Hollywood at the Santa Monica and La Brea intersection. So the full list of projects is attached in the staff report. There is also a wait list which consists of several other projects from the city of West Hollywood that could receive funding if more funding becomes available. Fourth, from the final Metro update has to do with the Fairless System Initiative, which is something that Metro staff is working on to study, and they presented at a special meeting to the Policy Advisory Council in January, studying the feasibility and potential impacts of eliminating fares on Metro's bus and rail system, which would be on all bus and rail lines. The goal of this would be to enhance equity, and specifically in one of the key ways it would potentially enhance equity is through avoiding the racial profiling and racially disproportionate enforcement of fare collection. Fare evasion has been cited, and fare evasion fines and tickets have been cited as one of the most visible ways that community advocates have expressed concern about how the Metro system operates, particularly in relation to policing. So Metro is studying potential benefits and potential impacts of eliminating fares. And in doing so is also studying some of the alternative funding sources and potential cost savings that could be involved in not having to spend money on fare enforcement and on fare collection procedures, fare gates, tap cards, and so on. So the COG staff will continue to monitor this initiative, but no decisions are being made at this point. And then last but not least, we have we are also involved in a collaboration between LADOT, Metro, and SCAG on a vehicle miles traveled mitigation bank and mitigation exchange potential pilot program. So COG staff is on the technical advisory committee for this VMT mitigation bank exchange concept. Basically, given this shift from level of service to vehicle miles traveled as the metric for measuring transportation impacts under the California Environmental Quality Act, this would be a way of potentially allowing flexibility for developers to mitigate those impacts by paying for projects that are somewhere else, maybe not in the direct immediate surroundings, or could potentially fund larger, more holistic projects across an entire subregion or county or region. So we attended a meeting back in January, and we'll continue to monitor developments on this, this concept, which the goal is to create a pilot program over the next several months. So we will keep you updated on that. And that's all. Any questions from the
on the pilot, Riley? That would be in the city of Los Angeles, correct? It's not intended to be outside of the boundaries of the LA?
That is correct. As I understand it, the pilot would be focused on the city of Los Angeles, and LADOT is taking the lead on setting that up. But obviously, it could affect our cities in some way, so we will continue monitoring.
Thank you.
This is not an action item, but we are open to any questions or comments, brief comments from our delegates? Anybody? Well, I have a couple of quick things I want to mention. I'm very interested in the idea of eliminating fare on mass transit. And that's something I proposed in Santa Monica 15 years ago, and then again 7 or 10 years ago. Both times it was the finances and the resources that were in question. So I'm very interested in hearing what Metro comes up with. And I hope that as they look for the resources to make it possible for Metro, since they control the transportation funding for the region, that they will reach out to their partners in Culver City and Santa Monica for our transit system, so we could all move forward if that's the direction you take. And the other would be with the VMT study. I just have to caution, and I've conferred with our city staff about this, our resources are pretty limited right now. So the amount of time we could perhaps put into that is limited for the moment. And that may be true for the other cities as well. So let's just try to keep that in mind. Anybody else?
If we were to go ahead with a vehicle miles traveled mitigation bank program, who would set the rules for that?
It's a great question, Councilmember. This is obviously just a pilot, so we're really at a very early stage, and it's LADOT, SCAG, and Metro looking at it. They are exploring it, and we'll let you know. We had the very first meeting, we were asked to join the TAC because of the COG, but we don't really have a lot of details yet. As this develops, we're happy to share that with you. Unless, Riley, you have a more direct question, but I think this is just an attempt to figure out how to deal with the fact that now we're dealing, instead of level of service, we have to deal with BMT mitigations. This might be one strategy.
Right. And I understand that that this is being introduced to provide some flexibility, that there might be some areas in which it's more difficult to reduce miles traveled. But if there were to be a program like this, my concern would be that it doesn't become an excuse to avoiding miles traveled for an area in which there are good alternatives. Our cities are places in which there are a variety of good alternatives, and I just wouldn't want it to become an excuse for people to be shifting elsewhere the reduction of miles traveled.
Thank you. We'll keep this in mind because I think it's
comments, Cecilia, so we can move on to item 6, the updates on homelessness and housing.
Winnie, take it away.
Yes, so an update on the Regional Early Action Plan, also known as REAP. As you can see in the agenda packet, we have attached our award letter from SCAG for $340,000 for our REAP application. As of right now, SCAG is currently working on an MOU with us that would detail the RFP procurement process. They have let us know that the process may take 4 to 5 months. We think that's a long time, and we really want to get this consultant on board and start it quickly. So we're asking them if we, as the COG staff, can draft the RFP and do the process ourselves just to expedite the process. So we will keep you all apprised of that, and we'll be working very closely with the housing working group to draft the RFP, as well as review the consultant proposals, as well as participate in the interviews. We just want to make sure that all the details in RFP reflects their needs. Are there any questions regarding that? Okay. The next one also in the agenda packet is a roadmap 2030, which the California Housing Partnership released last month. What it contains is a set of 4 clear goals proposing 12 policy priorities for the California State Legislature to focus on this year. And they're calling to create more affordable housing, protecting low-income renter households, ending homelessness, and closing the racial equity gaps in housing. Coming next month, they will have a full roadmap home, which would demonstrate how over the next 10 years, the state can end homelessness and create more affordable housing. So we will continue to monitor that and share with you information. And this might be something that we might want to advocate in our legislative platform as well, or any potential support letters.
Yeah,
Yes.
I want to know that some of the items in the 12 points you may see when Jeff gets to his legislative update, a lot of these have already been put into legislative proposals. So there's some movement on this statewide, and we just want to keep you apprised of it. We know what an important issue housing and homelessness is to the COG.
Mm-hmm. Any questions from the board? Okay, we have one more item.
Is this still within item 6?
I have one more, and this is a follow-up from you from the last meeting. It's not on the agenda, but I just wanted to follow up from your the chair's request from the last meeting on the eviction moratorium. As of January 29th, the governor has signed Senate Bill 91, which extends the statewide eviction moratorium and its protections through June 30th.
Great, thank you.
Update.
I also wanted to check with the other jurisdictions. Our city of Santa Monica is going to have a study session at our next council meeting on February 23rd about homelessness. Do you other cities have policy discussions on the issue coming up? Because we obviously want to try to coordinate our policies.
I believe at our next meeting, we also are going to be getting an update on the eviction protections by the state and how they correspond to the eviction protections that we have in our city.
And on the 22nd, Culver City will get an update on our housing programs that will include homelessness programs.
We have in West Hollywood, we have a homeless initiative subcommittee, and we'll be meeting at the end of the month, but pretty much every council meeting we discuss our housing situation and the eviction situation, especially as it pertains to COVID-19.
Okay, just want to urge us all to stay in touch on an issue that obviously no one of us can solve, and the solution is going to take effort from all of us working together. That finishes item 6. We'll move on to item 7. And, you know, we try to limit our presentations at these COG meetings, but we do have 2 today. Staff, the first one I believe is unmanned air mobility integration.
Correct. And Councilmember Erickson from Culver City has a presentation. He's been very much involved in this unmanned aircraft mobility issue. Councilmember Erickson, turn it over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, so staff has sent out 2, I think you've gotten 2 attachments that you can look at your leisure time. So I very briefly going to go through this. So I've been involved with National League of Cities now for 3 years. I've been the co-chair of National League of Cities Aviation Subcommittee and have passed resolutions with regards to big planes overflight and all those issues we deal with in our area here. But we also have had discussion about drones, which is coming quickly. FAA has started to develop frameworks around rules and regulations with regards to drones. So National League of Cities formed an unmanned air mobility advisory forum starting this year. And we have had 1 meeting, and that meeting was actually with FAA and the chief architect of the system for unmanned drones. So this is really where it sort of becomes instinct for us. So they have produced something that's called the ConOps version 2, which you have gotten a copy of. It's rather technically, but it's sort of a big picture framework for how to start controlling unmanned drones. It now moves into what's called the uncontrolled airspace. So FAA manage all airspace. We control the ground. So basically every city is now an airport because they can land and take off from anywhere in our city. And we can regulate that through zoning. But as soon as they are in the air, FAA manage the airspace. And then you have controlled airspace, which is around the airports and so on. But up to 400 feet outside a certain distance from the airspace, it's uncontrolled space. And that's primarily over all our cities. And this whole exercise now is to produce a document. It's going to be the ConOps, which basically stands for Concept of Operations. Version 3 that's going to come out in the fall from FAA. And the National League of Cities Advisory Forum is now actively working with FAA on a fairly regular basis to get the city's view, because the industry has very strong views in this, and getting the city's view into this document with regards to a lot of our issues with having drones flying over our cities. So that's really the group I'm in. I just wanted to highlight that this is happening now, and this will set the rules for how drones will fly over all our cities within about a year. So this is really important. So look at the documents, and you can contact me. We have our advisory forum meets once a month at least. And just as an example, City of San Francisco has worked with a company up in the Bay Area who's going to be one of the manager, because this airspace is going to be managed by computers. So there's not going to be a human being, but if you're going to fly a drone, a commercial drone, you need to file a flight plan to a computer who will check that there is no other drone that's going to fly in your airspace at the same time and so on, and give you clearance. So San Francisco has done a test to upload restricted area within the city of San Francisco into this system. So we're going to have a look at that, how that works and what you can restrict and how you can restrict it, because I think that's really what's important for all of us. The other aspect is the whole safety issue. So we have a big fire going on somewhere. Well, the fire department launches a drone to supervise, or we have helicopters coming in from the county or other places. Somehow we need to declare a no-fly zones for all the commercial drones that might have gotten flight clearance to fly through this area. And that is also being looked at now very seriously, how that process is going to work and how we will interface with our police and fire and so on. So that's on the table. Identification of drones. FAA just released a draft yesterday of how our law enforcement can identify drones, and how the complaint system from our residents should work and so on. So all this is going on now. So I just wanted to highlight this to you. We are 3 representatives from our area on this group of 15 cities. And that is Los Angeles have their Julia Thane, and LA Dot, the director, Celeta Reynolds, is also on the advisory forum, and together with me, and we are the only cities in Southern California. It's a total of 15 cities all over the nation. So this was just to highlight for you the issues that's going to be sorted out over the next year. But the first step is actually ConOps version 3.0 that's going to be released in the fall. And we really want to get the city's point of view in there and not just industry. Questions?
I don't see any. So
okay, thank you.
Thank you for your diligence on this issue.
Member Meister, I think, has a question.
Yeah, I just have, I mean, obviously, I mean, some of us have, some of our cities have ordinances in place already regarding operation of drones. So I assume that this is going to affect our ordinances, that it will have priority over our individual ordinances.
Exactly. That is the whole, one of the issues here, how we mesh our local audience with FAA. And FAA, they own the airspace and they have no interest in letting us sort of manage the airspace, period, right? Because too many cities, too many rules. So they will put sort of the ground rules in place. And that's why we really need to be involved, because it has the potential to affect our local regulation about how drones can fly, because FAA don't recognize that we have the right to do that, right? We can control landing sites and takeoff sites. That's our prerogative, right? So we can prohibit that all over the city if we want to in our zoning. And this is why this working group from National League of Cities, in my mind, is so important, because whatever FAA comes out with and then it gets finalized, it's so terribly hard to change anything that FAA have established, right? You know, LA have sued FAA, Culver City have sued FAA on overflight issues, and it's a enormously uphill battle to have any success there. So this is our chance.
Right, because in our city, we have requirements for, operating permits, and they need to be registered. And obviously our concerns are, I'm sure, similar to everybody else's, which is, privacy issues, public safety issues. So I guess we just need to keep that in mind.
Well, a lot of cities has that, and it's sort of with the zoning we can sort of regulate, right? We can regulate who is allowed to take off and who is allowed to land. But if a drone comes from a city outside of us and comes into our city, it's FAA rules that apply, right? Because they, the only thing we can control right now is landing and takeoff, and this is sort of the challenge, right? That we need to figuring out, because drones are going to increase exponentially in usage.
Thank you.
Santa Monica has some experience with the FAA and their jealous guardianship of their ability to control airspace. So I thank you for your diligence in pursuing this. It is an issue that probably will never be able to be dealt with satisfactorily at the local level. It's good that the National League of Cities has come together to have a voice, and I'm glad you're part of it. Thank you.
And I just want to add, in this case, FAA has been very, very cooperative. The architect group that's putting this together has actually sought out and is asking us and really bringing up issues they see and so on. So it's quite different than when FAA was pushing through Next Gen, which was more like a show and tell and take it and swallow it, right? But this is actually a different FAA that I've seen over the last few years. So we have hope, but you never know.
Well, maybe after this, you can take on helicopters.
Well, thank you. I think I used my time. So you all know how to get hold of me at the council email address. So no, talk to you later.
Thank you. You're on mute, Mary, Kevin.
Well, thank you. Much easier to hear me now. We also have another presentation about airspace. Who's doing that, Winnie?
It will be Glenda and Evelyn from LAWA. And I believe you are sharing your presentation. Let me know if you can access your shared screen.
Yes, I see the button here. So, good afternoon, everyone. Glenda Silva, Legislative Representative for Los Angeles World Airports. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to come and present to you as we look forward to another modernization project that we're looking to implement. You will get a presentation on the airfield and terminal modernization that we issued the draft DIR back in October, and due date for comments is mid-March, March 14th. And now I'm going to introduce my colleague, Evelyn Quintanilla, who will be presenting for you, and I will be sharing my screen.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having us here. Evelyn Quintanilla, Chief Airport Planner at the airport. Not quite a presentation on airspace. It's like Glenda mentioned, this is a presentation on our new proposed improvement or modernization project that we're in the middle of doing environmental analysis for. It is the airfield and terminal modernization project. It's a little bit of a mouthful. I don't know if everybody can everybody see the screen?
There is nothing currently on my screen.
Yeah, I don't see anything either right now.
Glenda, can you open the full screen?
Yeah, there had been an image before, but it seemed to go away.
It looks like Glenda's.
Apologies for that. My Zoom just crashed. Let me try this again.
Okay. So as she's putting it up, I know we have a limited amount of time. The project is called the Airfield and Terminal Modernization Project. And it's basically, it's on the title. It's a proposal to do some improvements on the airfield, as well as improvements for the terminals and some landside roadway improvements are in the entrance of the airport. So as you can see on the screen, everything that is sort of in color is part of this project. It is quite large. It started off as a safety improvement project on the North Airfield. improving some of the exit taxiways on the North Airfield, removing them from the middle of the North Airfield and putting them on the outer ends of the runway system. And with the improvements of the taxiways, because our airport is so constrained in terms of land, we actually touch, as you touch something, it has a domino effect and it touches other things. So one of the things that this project does is actually remove some of the remote gates at the west end of the airport. And with the removal of those remote gates, we are proposing to replace them with 2 new facilities, Concourse 0 and a new Terminal 9, as well as roadway improvements to be able to access those facilities. If you go to the next screen, Glenda, if you go to the next screen, like I mentioned, it does have airfield terminal as well as roadway improvements. The airfield improvements are primarily to enhance the safety on the exit taxiways and make it to meet the FAA design standards. And we are in the process of doing that. We are extending one taxiway to the west to allow for, oh, it went away again. To allow the ability to connect to the new exit taxiways. With those improvements and the new connections, it actually allows you, it removes some of the remote gates at the west end. So we're adding a new Concourse 0 east of Terminal 1, a new Terminal 9 with a passenger bridge connecting it to Terminal 8 within the central terminal area. And this, the terminal improvements will have access to the new people mover system that we are in the process of building as part of the land project that is currently under construction. In terms of the roadway improvements, we are reconfiguring some of the roadways to be able to come in and out of the airport, as well as to have direct access to the new Terminal 9 we're proposing. And the roadway improvements are geared to reducing the congestion on the public thoroughfares in the neighborhood streets, and especially along Sepulveda and Century. If you go to the next slide. I can go into a little bit of more of the airfield improvements. Like I mentioned, it started off as a safety improvement. The 2 exit taxiways that you see with the X's in the top graphic are basically the existing exit taxiways. And the FAA standards ask us to remove them from what is called the high energy zone, which is that orange area in the middle. And it's basically the area where most airplanes are taking off or landing. So when you're crossing from the northern runway to go into the gate, you have to cross the southern runway. And the FAA standards require us to have those exit taxiways further outside of, excuse me, outside of that safety zone. So that's what this project started off with. We're removing those 2 exit taxiways in the middle, replacing them with 2 outer ones, the 2 purple that you see on either end. And with that, we're actually making connections with the taxiways south of that. And it's the graphic that you see on the bottom, the extension of taxiway Delta to the west. As you can see, there's a lot of facilities underneath that taxiway that are impacted by the extension of this taxiway, including the west remote gate. So if you've ever flown out of LAX and sometimes there's not a gate available within the CTA, you land in those west remote gates and eventually get bussed over into the CTA. So those are the west remote gates that we are proposing to remove, and we're hoping to replace them with 2 new facilities. And if you go to the next slide, I can kind of get into the new facilities. So starting with a Concourse 0, a new Concourse 0, basically this facility is a concourse and not a terminal, in that it will not have landside access. So in order to get into this new facility, you're going to have to come in through Terminal 1. So this facility is going to be just east of Terminal 1, and the current location is where we're currently running the LA exit facility. Currently it is landside, so will be converted to airside. It will be a very similar type of terminal, or as the other terminals in the CTA. It will have 4 stories, similar type of square footages. It will have international processing capabilities. Not all of our terminals have that capability. This new facility will. We'll have a pedestrian corridor that is going to connect to the people mover that is currently under construction. As I mentioned, it will connect through Terminal 1, but you will have that capability. In addition to that, as you can see in purple, we will have some airfield improvements to be able to connect to the new facility, since all of that is currently landside. All of these facilities are obviously on airport property. So there will be no acquisitions in regards to this particular facility. If you go to the next slide, it's the new proposal for a Terminal 9. This one also on airport property, just south of Century, east of Sepulveda. It's a very similar facility with about 1.5 million square feet in size, about 12 gates. It will have a connection to the CT8 of the Central Terminal area. As you can see, there's going to be a pedestrian corridor that's going to go from Terminal 9 to connect to Terminal 8. It's going to go over Sepulveda. We are proposing to also have the international processing capabilities. We'll have a pedestrian corridor to the new people mover station that we're going to add, and it's been analyzed as part of this project. And this will have landside capabilities. So it is a terminal. So we are proposing new roadway system to be able to come in and out of this facility, as well as a new parking facility for it. Some improvements on the airfield as well to have better access to that new facility as well. If you go to the next slide, I can kind of go through a little bit of the roadways. They're a little bit complicated, as you can see. This new concept, this is looking south on Sepulveda to looking at the new roadway system. It's an elevated system dedicated to come in and out of the CTA, as well as accessing the new Terminal 9. It will be a different way of accessing the airport. As you can see, if you're traveling southbound in Sepulveda and you want to come into the airport, you're actually going to go on those elevated roadways, are going to go over Sepulveda onto 98th Street, and it's going to go around Quick Park, Joyce Airport Park, and it's going to hug and run parallel to the people mover system. All this in an elevated configuration onto Century Boulevard and into the CTA. And likewise, to come out of the CTA, it will actually do the same thing. You're going to come out on an elevated roadway on Century. You're going to come up onto this new street that is currently being constructed as part of the LAMP project. And you're going to be able to get onto either 96th or 98th Street to either come north or south. If you're going northbound on Sepulveda, you'll come out on 96th Street at grade eventually. And then if you're going to go south on Sepulveda, you're actually going to be on the elevated roadway over Sepulveda to come down on and be able to head it south on Sepulveda. If you go to the next slide, this is a different view of the same roadway system. Like I mentioned, it is a different type of way of coming in and out of the CTA. It is elevated roadway dedicated just to come in and out. And what we're hoping to do is to alleviate some of the congestion and throughput traffic on Sepulveda and Century, so that as folks are trying to come in and out of the CTA, they're on this elevated roadway and not clogging up the neighborhood streets on Sepulveda. So this is a view, that was a view looking south on Sepulveda. So some of the key project benefits, it is hoping to improve the passenger experience in that we are trying to reduce the busing from those remote gates on the west end and having just contact gates available with a new Concourse 0 and T9. The new facilities obviously will have a better passenger experience with concessions, retail, things that the remote gates currently don't have. And there will be a seamless transition between the international and the domestic flights, since these two new facilities will have international processing capabilities. It will improve the community experience, and we're trying to reduce the congestion on traffic on Sepulveda and Century. We are promoting a lot of sustainability aspects within this project, and with the reduction of aircraft idling and improving the air quality, and then in the improvements on the North Airfield will actually improve the efficiency of the airfield. And with the connection to the people mover, you'll be able to connect to the regional mass transit as well. And as I had mentioned, it started off as a safety improvement project on the North Airfield. We're enhancing the operational management, the efficiency of the airfield with the improvements of the exit taxiways. And it increases the business opportunities for the area, promoting local as well as permanent jobs. With the construction of the facilities, we will be temporary jobs, but eventually with the new concessions, there will be an additional permanent jobs for the two new facilities.
Evelyn, this is Cecilia. I just want to, I'm acutely aware of our board members' desire pretty brief presentations. I'd ask you to maybe wrap with just maybe one more slide, and I think we need to move on, but this has been.
Yeah, absolutely. So wanted to let you know that our environmental, if you go to the last slide, Glenda, I think we touched a lot of that other stuff. The environmental is currently out on the street. It was released back in November and actually the end of October. And we're closing the comment period on March 15th. So if you guys have any questions or if you have any comments, feel free to look at our website so to be able to provide comments.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, I'll take any questions.
Well, as chair, let me just start by asking who has jurisdiction over this?
Jurisdiction in terms of which aspect of it? ELAWA in itself is proposing the project. We will be trying to develop it ourselves, but we are in addition to having a CEQA document, we are doing NEPA, which is the federal side of the environmental, and for that, FAA has jurisdiction over that process.
Okay, so I just wanted to verify this is not something that any of our cities has any direct control over. What you're looking for here is input, basically based on the fact that our constituents are all passengers in and out of that airport at one point or another. Concerns about regional traffic, is that also part of what you're looking for?
I mean, some of the things that we are addressing is definitely traffic, air quality, noise, and some of the various aspects of the CEQA world, if you will. I mean, earlier in the gentleman from Culver City was mentioning, or the lady was mentioning about the VMT, and that's one of the things we cover in the environmental document as well.
Okay, thank you. I want to make sure we have time for the presentation from the League of California Cities, because I think Jeff's going to be able to talk about funding, which we all would like to hear about. But before we move to that, are there any questions about this presentation? I don't see any. So thank you very much for presenting that today. And
no, thank you for having us.
Yes, and if anyone's interested on a presentation, Winnie can share my information and we're happy to schedule it.
Well, thank you. Let's move on then to item 8 on our agenda, legislation, and a report from Jeff about checks that may be coming. This is exciting.
It is exciting, and I sent out an email last night, and then again, partly that was included in another email I sent this morning. I did just drop into the chat some information. It's all good news, basically, out of the federal government. The federal COVID relief bill, the new one that does include $350 billion for state and local governments. The link that I included is a press release by the chair of the Oversight and Reform Committee. This is going to be voted on tomorrow, actually, in that committee. It then needs to go to a couple other committees, but so don't take any of this money that I've listed in the chat to the bank yet. But there is some good news coming out of Washington. Things are starting to move. We are really ramping up our Support Local Recovery campaign, which we talked a lot about at the beginning of the pandemic, but when things kind of ground to a halt in Washington, we sort of haven't talked about that in several months now. So we're sort of getting that back up and running. So there's those that good news. Not horribly recent, but last week, last week, the president also increased the FEMA reimbursements for COVID activities that cities are purchasing, PPE, even housing homeless people's other at-risk populations. The Biden administration has increased the reimbursements from 75% all the way to 100%. And he's doing it retroactively to the beginning of the pandemic. So lots of good news starting to help get us back on track. We just need to make sure to follow through on this $350 billion that is recently proposed. I'll talk just briefly. There's a large packet of information in your agenda about the legislation. Despite their efforts to limit legislators' bills here at the state level to 12 per member. We already have, as of Tuesday, 910 bills that have been introduced in the state legislature. Of those, we've flagged 660 of them as potentially having impacts on cities and local control. So that's kind of what we're doing on that front. We actually have a board meeting that starts in about a half hour where the governor is going to be speaking to our board. So lots is going on. We don't have a lot of legislative movement for another month and a half, 2 months yet. So if you see something in some of this legislation that's worrisome or good, you've got a little while to kind of get your legs under you before you need to act in any of the policy committees at the legislative level. So I'll leave it at that for now, and let me know if you have any questions.
It's been a long, long time since we got this kind of good news out of Washington. What happened?
Any news of any work?
That's right. Yeah. Do we have any questions for Jeff in the league? Okay, we're not going to spend the money yet, Jeff, but we're glad to hear it. And, again, credit to Cal Cities, because it's our voices together that are making this happen. Those of us who have petitioned for help individually have found it's a very difficult thing to do for any one city, but you speak for all of us, and I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
With that, we can move on to item 9, announcements from our various jurisdictions on anything that might be of interest to the rest of us. I'll kick us off with, for instance, we heard today about drones and concerns about drone deliveries. We in Santa Monica right now have just signed a contract to pilot an autonomous delivery project, which hopefully will be more sustainable, maybe the wave of the future. We'll see how it works. We'll see how these little vehicles can share the streets and sidewalks. None of these will be airborne. This is a ground-based delivery service, but we're going to try it. As we begin to come out of COVID and head for economic recovery, I think we all know it's the chance to reinvent our cities, and there are going to be some new things we've never done before. Who else is doing something new or exciting?
We've got something good in Culver City, in large part thanks to the COG. We just approved a major active transportation initiative called Move Culver City through our downtown area, past the E-Line station that we have out to our arts district. That'll be a dedicated bus lane. We'll have a circulator that goes through there for people working and for people who want to enjoy the restaurants and our new town plaza. And there'll be there's pretty good bike facilities. So when you're not frequenting your own restaurants, please come and visit.
Floor is open for other cities.
We also signed something with Postmates to pilot the robot to deliver from our local restaurants. So we'll see how that goes. I haven't seen any yet. I think they haven't come out yet, but we'll keep you posted. So I'll be interested to see how it goes in Santa Monica.
So will we. Any other announcements from our jurisdictions? If there aren't, I'll turn it back to Winnie and Cecilia so we can talk about our future meetings and agenda items, which is item 10 on today's agenda.
We do have an announcement from Metro.
Yeah, and I have an announcement on Form 700s, which I know you're dying to get. Okay, go ahead, Patrick.
All right, thank you. Yeah, just a brief announcement. The Crenshaw Northern Extension, as you heard last August, our board approved 3 routes to continue north to connect the E-Line to the purple and the red. So we're going to move to have our scoping meetings in the last week of April. So we will put information out to the public as well as the cities and other stakeholders and partners to make you aware of how to access those meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. And then my announcement is that, as you probably know, but I am obligated to give you this information, Form 700s are due April 1st. And we, of course, recommend submitting the form electronically if you can. It's definitely much easier. Winnie's going to be forwarding you instructions. If you don't already know, you'll get instructions from us as board members of the Westside City COG. You have to file separately. If you do the paper version, you can file one form for all of your various public positions. I think the electronic form, you still have to do it separately if you have different items, so, or different positions. That's it for our announcements. Anything else, Winnie, from the COG?
No, but we have a comment from Denny Shaw, who is with South Coast HUMD. Denny?
Hello, everyone.
And just to clarify, Winnie, this is a comment on an item that was on the agenda or an announcement, because we have a space coming up for public comment.
Is it an announcement or public comment, Denny?
It's public comment regarding
Oh, okay.
our meeting.
Then I'm going to request that we hold that for the e-public comment item 11, which is upcoming. And let's get out of the way the business we have to take care of, which is item 10 regarding future meetings. Can you fill us in on that?
Oh, our next meeting is on April
8th.
Do we have any requested agenda items to discuss at the next meeting?
Yes.
Yeah,
I would love to see us talk about our legislative priorities since Jeff has provided us with all of the new bills that may be coming our way. Also want to maybe take it a step further, and if we can come to some agreement on some positions regarding housing, transportation, et cetera, that we have that as part of the agenda as well, or as a follow-up item.
Our council saw Tuesday night how unwieldy it can be to go bill by bill. And so what we have done now for years is we annually meet and set a legislative agenda for the City Council of the City of Santa Monica. That is coming up, I believe, on March 9th for us. So we will have that decided by the time this COG reconvenes. Let me just check. Do other cities do it the same way? Are you about to have legislative agenda meetings so we'll actually all have something authorized by our councils to talk about if this is put on the next COG agenda?
Generally, yes, we've already done that. We did that at our last meeting or one before that.
Yeah, we've had discussions as well, but I'll check with Hernan to see if we're up to date. But there are a lot of new items, so I don't know that, it covers those.
Well, April is generally a pretty timely point to make comments on bills, because at that point, we pretty much know what bills they're going to be. Right now, bills are being formed and swapped and clauses moved back and forth, and it's really difficult to know whose bill we might want to support or oppose. But I think April would be good. So I'd be supportive of having that on the agenda for April.
And as we have in the past, we work with your staff to compile all of those legislative agendas from each individual city. Then we look to see where there's alignment, and then we pull that together. Only where there's an alignment will we propose that be part of the COG's legislative agenda. So we'd also need to look at the city of Los Angeles and what the county has done as well.
Yeah, and I guess my thoughts about positioning, having a positioning statement is that we do have, some new representatives of the COG on bodies like SCAG, and I know I would have appreciated having some positioning statements when some things came our way for voting at the subcommittee level, because I think it's important, since some things we agree on, some things we don't. And as we have representatives that are supposed to be representing the West Side City's COG view, I think it's important for them to, and me, for example, to make sure that we have, the COG blessing on how we vote.
You're on mute, Kevin. Kevin, you're muted.
Thank you. Let's try to remember, let's try to figure out what it is we agree on, people, because that's what we will have as the COG legislative agenda. There will be things we do not agree on. They won't be part of the COG's agenda, but we will, I hope, find a number of issues on which we as constituent cities of the COG and the county agree. And that's what we want to move forward. So that'll be on the April 8th agenda. Is there anything else? I see that you've already noted, staff, the Metro West Side Central Service Council representative nomination. Is that the same one we just talked about, or is that yet another one?
That's the same one.
It's the same one, but we need to approve it.
I just thought we have one on every agenda now.
This feels
Anything else, folks, or can we move on to the public comment? Well, Denny Shaw, you were very patient. I'm sorry to have held you up there, but I wanted to get the COG business out of the way. We'll now move on to item 11 on our agenda, which is public comment, and you are first.
Thank you. Just wanted to announce that the South Coast AQMD will be hosting a warehouse ISR public workshop and community meeting on February 16th and 17th. And the ISR is the indirect source rule. So it's an opportunity for anyone on this COG here to participate virtually. And I can provide that flyer to Winnie so she can distribute it to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other comment from people who are present here but are not delegates? I know we have a number of staff people, and we may have some other members of the public that I'm not aware of. I saw some people come in after we did the initial introductions.
I like to refer to Riley.
Yeah, so we actually have no attendees from the public. Everyone in the Zoom right now is either a board member or staff member. And I have not received any emails. I've checked my junk mail, so no written public comments either. So yeah, it looks like our public comment is closed.
Well, exactly. Then I'll announce that item 11 is closed. We've heard the public comment. Again, I thank you all and welcome to those of you who are new doing this. It's a lot of fun, especially when we get word like this money coming. We'll do this again in 2 months. I think our next meeting is on April 8th, 2021. And until then, this meeting of the Westside City's Council of Governments is adjourned. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.